Welcome back, everybody. Now, a while ago I checked out 1989, but I didn't do the extra tracks from the Deluxe version, and I haven't checked out the Vault tracks that have been released on the Taylor's version. So that's what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to begin by reading the liner notes because I don't think I did that last time either. Prologue. These songs were once about my life, they are now about yours. What a concise, brilliant sentence just to begin with, man. That's what I'm always saying. I think that's what all songwriters and artists say, right? You know, you put it out into the world and then it belongs to the audience, doesn't it? You know, everybody is going to see it through the lens of their experience, you know, and relate it to their own life in different ways. Cool. I was born in Reading, Pennsylvania on December 13th. 13's a lucky number, right? 1989. In the world we live in, much is said about when we are born and when we die. Our birthday is celebrated every year to commemorate the very instant we came into the world, and a funeral is held to mark the day we leave it. But lately I've been wondering what can be said of all the moments in between our birth and our death. The moments when we are reborn. I suppose you're hoping. Oh man, I agree. You know, and I suppose you've got to hope to be reborn, to continually. Life should be a continual cycle of like small deaths and rebirths, right? As you expand your personality over time, you know, and try to dispense with the things that are holding you back, and you know, making you feel weak, and step forward, you know, into more truth and to more knowledge, and all that sort of stuff. The debate over whether people change is an interesting one for me to observe because it seems like all I ever do is change. All I ever do is learn from my mistakes so I don't make the same ones again. Man, I've made the same ones over and over and over again. Sometimes not even realising they're mistakes. I suppose, you know, not having enough self-awareness or ignoring too much, I suppose, consciously or unconsciously. And the debate over whether people change is an interesting one because change has to be possible, right? And I suppose from an evolutionary standpoint, right, the things that don't change go extinct, right? They don't adapt. You know, death and extinction lies that way. So change is like a fundamental part of existence, I guess, and the universe, right? And I think that's what life is for most people, right? It's to learn and to grow, you know, and to change. But I suppose that doesn't mean changing completely, does it? You know, although perhaps that is necessary sometimes as well. You've just got to continue to evolve. Is that the best word, do you reckon, to think about? All I ever do is learn from my mistakes so I don't make the same ones again. Then I'll make new ones. Yeah. I know people can change because it happens to me little by little every day. Every day I wake up as someone slightly new. Isn't it wild and intriguing and beautiful to think that every day we are new? It is, yeah. It's complex, man. For the last few years, I've woken up every day not wanting but needing to write a new style of music. I needed to change the way I told my stories and the way they sounded. Probably like a boredom aspect to that as well as a maturity thing, growing up and that as well, isn't it? I listened to a lot of music from the decade in which I was born, and I listened to my intuition that it was a good thing to follow this gut feeling. I was also writing a different storyline than I'd ever told before. Good. I wrote about moving to the loudest and brightest city in the world, the city I had always been overwhelmed by, until now. So you're no longer overwhelmed by it. Is that what you're saying? I think you have to know who you are and what you want in order to take on New York and all its blaring truth. I wrote about the thrill I got when I finally learned that love, to some extent, is just a game of cat and mouse. Love is just fascinating, isn't it? And I suppose it's easy. She's speaking about romantic love, right? And I suppose there are different kinds of love that feel different, right? Whether that's familial, the love you have for your parents or your children, the love you have for your friends, the love that you have for your passions, for your interests, for your football team, for your favourite artists, whatever, your favourite songs. But I guess it does all boil down. I mean, the real love, right? It all boils down to the thing that underlies everything. Is that you probably see me struggle with this before? Is that like just too cliche to say? Is it true, really? There's an energy, isn't there? That underlies everything, that holds everything together. So it's difficult to quantify, isn't it? As far as I can tell, I guess love is it's like yoga, isn't it? It's union. It's a search for connection with the source, or at least your vibrations need to be compatible, don't they? But then people do evolve and change, don't they? So perhaps that's if people are getting married young and stuff, or in relationships since they're young, are people more likely to grow or drift apart or change. If one person changes and the other person doesn't change, but maybe you can change in different ways. Oh man, life. I should start a podcast, I suppose, getting a bit philosophical. Let's continue with this, man. I was going down that road forever. So, to some extent, it's just a game of cat and mouse. I wrote about looking back on a lost love and understanding that nothing good comes without loss and hardship and constant struggle. Yeah, man, nothing does, I suppose. The good thing is, anything easy? Is anything worthwhile easy? Even great relationships, which I'm fortunate enough to have now. It takes is effort the right word? I guess, but not that that's a bad thing, because I have to be better and do better, work on myself constantly, and make that constant, the constant decision to do the best thing in every moment, for myself and for our relationship. I guess for our relationship first. But is there a difference? I mean, it kind of seems nonsensical to me to say who's more important. But I suppose is the relationship more important? Or is the other person more important? This kind of thinking is above my pay grade, I think, But I'm trying to work it out some more. But struggle is essential, isn't it, man? Like exercising. I do enjoy it sometimes, and I enjoy kind of once I get into it and once I've finished, that satisfaction and all that, and just feeling my body and my mind feels good usually after a vigorous workout, but usually before I'm not always looking forward to it, although sometimes I am, so I don't know, but it's struggle, isn't it, to push yourself to expand your horizons in all the dimensions, I guess. Digressing too much, every sentence, we're going to be here all day. There is no riding off into the sunset like I used to imagine. Oh, man, I want to say something about every sentence. It's the same as that idea of we're gonna, whatever your given thing is in life, that sort of dream of making it, and sitting on a beach with cocktails or whatever, and a life of leisure, a life of luxury, but really, that's a vacation, isn't it? It's not, unless you are continually improving yourself in some way, shape or form, then I don't know what. It's. I mean, sometimes I suppose, things can be that bad. You just got to try and improve your situation. Putting food on the table and a roof over the head and that. So it is a luxury, isn't it? Hierarchy of needs. You need to get the fundamentals sorted first, which is something I neglected, like, periodically, I suppose, throughout my life. And maybe I would work quite a lot, save up some money, and then not work and try and chase my dreams. But really, was I really chasing them? I was just avoiding lots of things, I suppose. Drinking too much or not being efficient, with my time, and maybe not being willing to learn about things. There's no riding off into the sunset like I used to imagine. We're never out of the woods because we're always going to be fighting for something. Very true. I wrote about love that comes back to you just when you thought it was lost forever, and how some feelings never go out of style. To me, that feels like creativeness, I suppose, or the urge to be creative. Maybe at points I thought I'd lost that. I hoped it would come back, and it has, thankfully. I watched a Johnny Marr clip the other day, an interview, because he's been like teetotal for years, and he's 60 now, and he doesn't look it at all. He was a guitar player in the Smiths, if people don't know. But years ago I saw an interview with him, and he said that the reason he stopped drinking was because he got sick and tired of sitting around with his mates, talking about all the things they were going to do and never actually doing any of them, because they were just spending all the time drinking. And I think I heard that around the time that I was like trying to stop, and that and many other things really helped, turn a light on, in my head and push me towards that. But anyway, the clip that I saw the other day, somebody asked him a question, and they asked, how do you balance, eating well and exercise with the creative side of things, and the work, and he said it because it's integral to the work, because the better you look after yourself, it helps the work, So they're not separate things, and whatever your passion is, whatever you want to achieve in life, it took me so. People maybe even told me stuff like this, or I saw things throughout the years. I don't know, but I guess I just thought I was just in a race, and I don't know what I was racing against. I just wanted to get fame and money or success. I wanted to be good, I didn't want to be famous or successful for nothing. I wanted to be great, but I just made such a mess of it. And I didn't look after myself, and I should have. But now, just over the last year, when I've been more consistent, I suppose, in the last 12 months with my diet and exercise and prioritising good sleep and all that sort of stuff, than I ever have been, and I feel the best I can ever remember feeling, probably, in general, I can. There's still a lot of room for improvement, I need to work on my cardiovascular capacity a bit more and all that, and do more fasting and stuff like that. Anyway, I wrote about an important lesson I learned recently, that people can say whatever they want about me, but they can't make me lose my mind. I learned how to shake things off. Yeah, you gotta. Same as like you can't be it's difficult, isn't it, sometimes, but you can't be a slave to other people's words or thoughts. going back to that idea of being still that I've been banging on about recently, you know. The same with your own, you know, like you can get swayed in the moment by your own like emotions, isn't it? And then they're not always logical, you know, and for me certainly anyway, you know, under some kinds of stress, I suppose, or duress, like I can get frustrated with myself mainly, I suppose, but when I do, it's the good analogy for it is the water one, isn't it? You know, in still water you can see your reflection clearly, or you can see things clearly, I suppose, you know, even if it's clear water, like what's underneath. But in boiling water, you're not seeing nothing. I've told you my stories for years now. Some have been about coming of age, some have been about coming undone. This is a story about coming into your own, and as a result, coming alive. Yeah, that's a cool feeling. A cool feeling, one that I'm hoping to experience soon, you know. I'm lining my things up. I hope you know that you've given me the courage to change. I hope you know that I hope you know that who you are is who you choose to be, and that whispers behind your back don't define you. I love the idea of, you know, I'm not what happened to me, I'm what I choose to become. It's a great, I mean, I suppose I've been going through my phone recently just because, you know, it gets full, doesn't it? And you have to delete stuff, and the amount of like stuff that I used to screenshot, and I think I used to do it even more like back in the day. Just, you know, motivational quotes, and a quote is good, isn't it? You know, it's a concise reminder of, I guess, the way you want to be, you know, or stuff like that. But also, they're very they don't encompass the wider vision, do they? I suppose. What am I trying to say? Oh, my mind's going all over the place today, guys. Does anyone know that Oscar Wilde quote that imitation is the greatest form of flattery? This is a good example, because that's a quote I've known for years, and then only recently, it was imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And that's the quote I know that gets passed around, but the full quote, I think, is something like, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. And that just like puts a completely different spin on it, doesn't it? So I suppose quotes can be two-dimensional, but I do love a good quote. And I love the idea that we can choose who we want to be, you know, going forward. And yeah, you've got to find the balance of not ignoring or suppressing the past, you know, and dealing with the things you've got to deal with. But I also believe, you know, that you can't spend all your time in the past, in that space, because, well, for me anyway, man, it doesn't make me feel good, I guess. I can only take it in small doses, you know, and I'm going to keep taking it in small doses until I work through a lot of it, I suppose. But I'm just trying to focus on building the new rather than fighting the old, you know. You are the only person who gets to decide what you'll be remembered for. Too right. I feel you. From the girl who said she would never cut her hair or move to New York or find happiness in a world where she is not in love. Love Taylor. Cool, man. Cool. there was many years when I was like, I would never cut my hair either, you know. It was down to, you know, to my chest, and I thought it did define who I was, you know. But not anymore, you know. Not anymore. Anyway, man, how long do you reckon I ranted on for then? Gosh, nearly 20 minutes. But that was cool, man. Enjoyable, right? Okay, so let's check I got my things lined up. Yeah, I think we're all good to go. So the Wonderland is the first track that I haven't checked out, right?
Flashing